couple of things. I want to talk about, if it's okay, two of what you talked with your essence.
Yeah.
The essence of you, who you are, where you come from, as far as in your work. And you mentioned two things that aren't said a lot in corporate America,
Oh,
or are
yeah.
not said a lot in leadership coaching. You said intimacy, and you said love.
I know.
You
I
said
know.
love.
Yeah.
And as this last year, we, if the one person or one organization that's going to stand up and say, well, um, 2020 didn't affect me. I'm like, well, then I don't even know how to respond to that, because there's a willful ignorant delusion there.
Yeah.
We were all in some way affected by this. On a certain spectrum level, one way or another. And but in that last year and everything, it became a little more evident to me, and that's how you and I connected, was this idea. And there was a lot of talk now. It seemed like there was a reset button on how we could start talking about culture now.
Mm.
People were now talking more about culture and the future of HR, and everybody, 2020 HR was just in survival mode. In a lot of ways, they still are in the survival mode from the residual of 2020.
Yeah.
And that's probably going to go on for the next couple of years. And so we're seeing that. So what we see from last year and everything, and you and I connected, got introduced to, because I was getting with some networking groups, getting back in with my consulting. And someone mentioned, like, you might want to connect with somebody who is starting to base a lot of their consulting on more mindfulness based approaches. And I appreciated the fact that you were a fellow LGBTQ member, because I was having trouble finding anybody who was open to
Mm.
discussing their leadership consulting and coaching based on a solid foundation of a mindfulness based approach. And that's how you and I connected, because that was the only thing that was making sense to me in all of my education, my tenured career in human resources, talent acquisition, leadership and development. The only thing that resonated in any sort of development was the start of this mindfulness-based approach of how we separate ego from from the rest of from that leadership space, and like, how do we move forward in that. And yesterday last year we were all slapped with a big dose of ego. But when we connected, you had those same qualities, that essence that I was looking for in other colleagues that weren't afraid that was not afraid to talk about the things that we just don't talk about in HR, in talent acquisition, because it becomes too much a lot of times of a step-by-step process. So I say all that because I want to hear more about you using the essence of yours of intimacy
Yeah.
and love,
Yeah.
how that's working with you, how you're using that, and what's coming back to you with that.
Yeah. The first thing that comes to mind that I want to share is that this work that I've done to have this awareness into myself in a way that I feel like affirmed in my being of compassion and intimacy and love and joy and peace.
Mm.
That's work that I've done in the time that I've been building my business and since I left the corporate space. So
Mm.
let me just caveat this by saying that all of this is sort of in response to the challenge that I was having embracing these qualities of myself when I was in the corporate space.
Mm.
And so I was having this experience of like wanting more love in the workplace, more intimacy in the workplace, and feeling
Mm.
scared to lean into that because it felt like it didn't have the right place. And how do I even express that?
Can I
And
pause you 1 second?
yeah, yeah.
Was the fear of that feeling the possibility of it seeming as weak?
yeah,
in
like
the corporate
soft
structure. Okay.
and
Yeah.
weak and like misplaced and what's the point?
Perhaps
And
too effeminate for a
yeah, I mean,
male.
I didn't even think about it even as like femininity or masculinity as much as like this corporate
Okay.
focus on results and KPIs and bottom
Okay.
line. And I was very fortunate to have people that I was reporting to for most of my career
Mm-hmm.
that that made me that I was comfortable like being myself with and could be vulnerable with.
Okay.
But there was always still this sense of like, there's a corporate structure and you're reporting to
Mm-hmm.
this person, and how much of myself can I really like bring and share.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah.
so I'll give you an example. So at one point when I was meeting um, a new boss that I was going to be reporting to me, that's an opportunity to connect with another person on a really like human, deep level to get
Mm-hmm.
to know the person that you're now entering this really important relationship with.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm coming from this place of like wanting to be intimate in the way that like I want to get to know you. I want to have like open doors for connection and create something that's going to
Mm-hmm.
establish a powerful relationship going forward. So that's the place I was coming from. And the first, question she asked me was like, so tell me what your team does and what they're responsible for. And I was like, oh, we can talk about that. I'd love to first just kind of get to know you a little bit more, share you a bit,
Mm-hmm.
tell you a bit more about my background, and just like kind of
Mm-hmm.
get to know each other. And that to me, it was reinforcing this feeling of like, where's the space for the
Mm-hmm.
intimacy and love to show up in this moment? And I cultivated that because I didn't just go along with her narrative. I stopped and said, well, let's have a bit more of a conversation here
Yeah.
first. But it's moments like that
Mm-hmm.
where bringing more like heart into your work, I think, is really important and really powerful
Mm-hmm.
because we are all people and we just want to connect, and we have to get the work done, but we're talking about an important relationship here that has to
Mm-hmm.
be built on trust and connection and
Mm-hmm.
safety, and that stuff can't exist without intimacy and love, in my opinion.
Right. Have you ever said to anyone, like, have you ever, what has been some of the reactions when you have said with some clients or whatever, like, love approach saying, like, how do you use it?
I will like
Because
if I'm
people are, they're scared shitless of that word.
I know. And it's taken time for me to kind of embrace that too.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I'll sign some of my emails with love, like to some of my clients, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm bringing love into the space with
Yeah.
you. I like really feel like your
Mm-hmm.
heart, and I feel my heart in this, and that's important.
Yeah.
And it's like other people's stuff if they feel uncomfortable with that. Like that's
Yeah.
just me being true to my being, and
Mm-hmm.
it's part of putting out in the universe what I want to create and when I get back.
Yeah.
So